Schweitzer, Jeremy Lance, Wrong Side of the Pond podcast. For the two of us, not the most chipper of moods after this weekend's matchup. Obviously, Chelsea, big flame out.
Yeah.
Up in North England.
It happens to the best of us.
And a 0-0 draw. Or as someone put it, a 0-0 defeat.
Yeah.
Against Everton for the Spurs. A rough one, I guess, for the two of us. But other people are happy, right?
There are, I think, other happy people out there.
You got Arsenal fans are feeling really good about themselves.
I hate that.
They're 5 points clear. They just got a big test this weekend with Liverpool. And smelling like roses coming out of it. I guess if you're a Liverpool fan, you're with us. You're not feeling too good about yourself.
No, probably not.
If you're a fan of one of the Manchesters, you're feeling good about yourself, especially a City fan.
You'd hope they'd be happy after all that.
If you're a City fan and you're not happy, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Only Joe Hart.
If you're Joe Hart, you're not happy.
Yeah, we'll get into that some.
But yeah, it was a big weekend in the EPL with some decent matchups. Also, we had the first ever installment of Top Flight English Football's Wales Derby, a Welsh Derby.
Yeah, it was. But we're not just going to talk about the Premier League, of course.
No, of course. We had MLS. We're actually watching the LA Real Salt Lake match right now. Still nothing really happening in this one. Robbie Rogers starting. Did notice that one.
A little oddity. Hey,
yeah, that's a little something that jumped out on us.
They've taken a little criticism, for the whole Mike McGee and Robbie Rogers swap that went down to get Rogers out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you listened to our podcast last week, we criticized it.
It wasn't just us, though.
Okay.
Other people were raising that.
Other people jumped on that one.
Yeah. So they heard our podcast last week and said, "Hey, that's a great idea. We should talk about that too."
Or we just don't have any kind of real original thought. We're just thinking what everyone else is thinking.
No, it was definitely us.
Okay.
It was definitely us.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, maybe they're just throwing him out there just to make it seem like, hey, we wanted this guy. He's useful for us.
Love the skunk haircut right there.
Everyone loves a good skunk haircut.
We got, obviously, MLS Playoffs going on. As we said, we're watching the ESPN matchup right now. There's some stuff to talk about the first leg. Obviously, we had some good matchups. If you were one of those who stepped away from the NFL to watch New York and Houston on NBC, they picked the right one to put on there because that was a good game.
It was a good game.
It was a great match, great finish. Houston, you said it. They get into the playoffs and then they just do their thing.
It's like everything clicks for them. They've been waiting all year to finally click into the last gear.
So we'll talk about those, the bright things, the fact that NBC was able to showcase a great matchup, really a great advertisement for the league today with that Houston-New York matchup. And then some of the not-so-positive things like the two NFL fields that were used. I'm not saying just the stadium was an NFL stadium.
No, they were definitely NFL fields.
They were primed for NFL home games to take place less than 24 hours later.
I felt like I was watching an MLS playoff match from, say, 1998.
I kept getting thrown off because I was like, wow, he is way out of bounds.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Those weird lines are actually not the lines they're playing within.
It's a problem that a lot of people have to deal with, actually. It's not actually just an MLS problem.
No, it happens all over the country.
Well, here in America, yeah. I mean, there are high schools right around us, beautiful football facilities that also have the soccer lines on them and are used for matches. And I was standing on the sideline at a high school Friday night and just kind of looking at the soccer lines, and they're in red and everything else is, obviously that bright white, chalk lines for football, and then the big end zone with the logo, and within that is this faint red box,
kind of hand painted on,
and it's just if I was playing on this field, I would be clueless as to where I was half the time.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not easy. I mean, having played games recently on football lined fields, it is a little tricky, and it takes a while to get a hang of it, but you're always second-guessing your positioning. Like,
sure.
Am I out of bounds? Is this the right line? I'm not even really sure if this line is out of bounds for, like, either field.
I guess the tip is if you're on the track oval, you're probably out of bounds.
That means you've gone too far.
You are officially out of bounds.
Yeah. So
that was one of the things that I guess stuck out to both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the other thing. Could you imagine another league allowing, like the NFL allowing like a Major League Baseball logo to be pasted in the middle of their field during their playoffs?
Well, think about it. I mean, you look to Oakland had this situation where they had an NFL home game for the Raiders in the same facility that Oakland had to host a playoff game for baseball, and they actually somehow Major League Baseball won out and made the NFL move their game to a later time.
Right.
So that they had enough time to because they have to shave down the mound. You still get that infield there.
Oh, yeah.
That infield dirt's still there.
And you'd see that in San Francisco up until last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something
Miami
that was regular.
up until recently as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have some. It just looks stupid.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, just to have just logos, fully painted logos for some other sport. Sure, it's another tenant of that building.
Yeah. And so what if the Sounders have the exact same colors as the Seahawks?
It wasn't helping me.
No. I mean, it looked terrible. We
looked really bad.
We talk a lot about all the progress that's been made in this country with soccer and how far MLS has come. And this was like a nice reality check. Like, we know our place now. Now that our playoffs aren't really getting the respect they deserve by having the other tenants wait a day. Can you tell me really that the line or the grounds crew couldn't come out and paint those lines on after the Seattle game? Couldn't they have probably done that?
Well, I mean, if that's an artificial surface though, so it's just the surface just needs to be rolled out, right?
Well, it needs to be rolled out and washed. They try to rinse it down off of that a little bit.
Clean it off.
But at the same time, I mean, why couldn't they have just waited until after the Sounders match was over and done it in the middle of the night and let the paint dry overnight?
Sounds like a union issue.
It does. I don't know what union they would go to for that.
Because I think that actually was the situation in Oakland where there was a union issue involved of why they had to do it when they did it.
Damn unions.
The old Mound Shavers Union of Northern California, apparently.
Yeah. And in this case, we're talking about the Cascadia Line Painting Union. They only work between, set hours.
Unions.
Yeah, so we got to see a few of those this weekend, but we'll talk a little bit more about the MLS playoffs.
And we have some other MLS news, too, as well. We have locally here in Ohio, obviously the big news is Eddie Gavin's sudden announcement that he's done.
Yeah.
He's the same age as me.
Which is a little crazy.
I feel like I still got some tread on the tires.
Well, wouldn't it be nice to be able to retire now, though?
That would be nice. But it doesn't sound like he's really retiring just from life. Like, it sounds like he's just moving on to something else.
Yeah.
He's got something in mind, apparently.
Well, I mean,
you don't just drop what it was, like $190,000 salary he's got going. You don't just drop that out of nowhere midway through your career at a very young age if you don't have a plan.
Well, I mean, I think there are probably a couple things at play. I mean, he did say that he was leaving for personal reasons.
Sure.
So, that could be interpreted like 9 billion ways. But
yeah,
I think one thing that definitely needs to be said, Gavin's coming off a really big knee injury. And against the Dayton Dutch Lions of all teams, which is...
strike again.
Yeah, here they just keep giving us reasons to not like them. But the Dutch Lions, he did have an injury against them in the U.S. Open Cup. And he was out, with, I think it was an ACL tear. And maybe his knee isn't mending as well as, they anticipated. That could entirely be a possibility. Just maybe his knee didn't heal the right way. I mean, that stuff isn't always an exact science.
But, I mean, if he says personal issues,
yeah,
you got to think.
You think that wouldn't be it.
That wouldn't be it.
He would probably say, this is the reason why. It's puzzling. No one expected. The thing that really caught me off guard about it, the entire story was the fact that the coaching staff said that this was totally out of the blue to them as well.
They just got hit with it, just like we did.
So apparently he came in and told Brian Bliss first thing in the morning, interim coach Brian Bliss. They were expecting him in for some training, and he came in and told him, hey, I'm going to retire. And they were kind of like, well, what? And then they asked him if he wanted to, address the team, and he said, I'm just going to go to the locker room and talk to everyone, individually.
That's probably more genuine.
It seems like he's doing what he wants to do, which is nice.
Yeah, I think we'd all love to have that ability.
Someday.
Yeah.
After we get rich from this podcast.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's one of those weird things where now you're kind of just sitting there waiting, like, all right, what's the next move? What's this all about?
Well, I mean,
will we ever really? I mean, I guess we'll eventually know if he does something, if he starts a business, if he.
In the Eddie Gavin tell-all novel.
He told Adam Jardy from
Columbus
Dispatch.
Yeah.
Some interview, he like 5-question things he did with him like a couple years ago, I think it was. And I guess he asked him, like, if you weren't playing soccer, what would you do? Did you read that?
I didn't.
He said he would have his own farm, be a farmer.
Oh, man.
And then he even said at the end, maybe that's something I'll do afterwards.
So I don't know if this is like a thing in MLS, but I know of another MLS player that wants to retire and have a farm.
And be a farmer?
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's the hot thing to do amongst MLS players.
There is another guy who kind of retired from the spotlight and does have a farm. I don't know how active it is, but maybe him and Dave Chappelle, who also lives in the Ohio area, can hook up and they can collaborate on a farm.
Over in Yellow Springs. Eddie Gavin has a beard that makes him look like he'd live in Yellow Springs.
Yellow Springs. It's the Vermont of Ohio.
It is the Vermont of Ohio. If you don't know of Yellow Springs, it's a delightful little half hippie, half ghetto town in the middle of a cornfield.
Half hippie, half ghetto. All awesome.
Yeah.
It's a cool town.
It is a cool little town. I mean, it's definitely a place to check out if you're ever in between Columbus and Dayton.
If you are ever around, and they have some kind, I forget, they have a couple, like, yearly festivals.
Yeah, a couple of them a year.
And literally, if you go there, Dave Chappelle and his family just can be just tooling around.
Yeah, like walking around, pushing the kids in strollers and stuff.
I mean, that's kind of what they do. That's where they live. They just wander around.
Yeah.
My buddy, he had a friend that ran the door at a comedy club in Dayton. Mm-hmm. And for a while there, Dave Chappelle would just randomly roll in and be like, hey, can I do 5 minutes? And they're like, you can do 5 hours, dude.
Yeah.
You can do whatever
if you want
to
do the night, you've got it. So
like he would go like open mic night and just show up. Which it was great because like if you were like just some like hack like guy that had been rehearsing something in your bathroom for like 5 days.
Yeah.
And like you're now opening for Dave Chappelle, you've got to just... You might just go up and just throw up projectile vomit on yourself.
Hey, guys, I didn't know I was opening for Dave Chappelle tonight. So I'm just going to fold.
Yeah, I fold.
I'm not going to deal with this.
I had some jokes.
So potential investment opportunities for retiring MLS players apparently incorporate a lot of farms.
You said the right word. That segues into the other little note from the MLS, investments. Sounds like David Beckham has decided it's going to be Miami.
Yeah.
A lot of thoughts on if that's a terrible idea or just a mediocre idea.
Well, I mean, I think everyone knew.
Take your pick.
Well, let's be honest. Everyone knew that it was like 2 towns that David Beckham would consider, really.
Well, okay.
One is Miami.
Yeah. Rule out all flyover country.
Yeah. All flyover country was definitely out. It's not like we were expecting him to buy the Columbus Crew or,
I'm going to go, we're going Wichita, Kansas. I'm going
to put a team in there. No, I think Miami was one, and then I think the only other plausible place would have been Vegas.
Yeah.
I can't think there would have been another major city that lacks a team that Beckham would have been like, okay, I'd be all right spending some time here.
But, of course, he's a Brit, so he picked Miami.
Yeah. Because Brits love America's penis.
Why?
I don't know. It's just something about it. The warm weather, all the slow drivers and the gawking. It's just something British people love. But no, Miami just.
It's got its problems. We'll get into that real quickly.
Yeah.
Also, we got a little Champions League. It's not much to talk about. They start up again on Tuesday, which is probably by the time you're hearing this, I would say the Tuesday matches have already been played.
Yeah, they probably have. So it's old news at this point.
We got that. It's basically it's that serpentine schedule. So whoever they just played, that's who they're playing, just different location.
Yep, just flip-flopped.
So we'll look at that. I think that we'll wait till our Thanksgiving special, because I believe that's the next week that they get it cracking.
Yep.
And then I think we'll finally be able to say, like, hey, this team's in trouble, or
this team is running the group, and they're now favorites.
They might you might want to look out for them to start knocking people off in the later rounds.
Hopefully by then we'll know.
I would hope so. But so we got that, and then also we had a question sent to us by a listener, just kind of about FIFA sanctions, I guess.
Teams getting punished for being naughty.
Well, he kind of pointed out these FIFA sanctions. It's almost like the NCAA in that they range in scale. They're always controversial.
Yep.
But then he also kind of pointed out that, you don't see that, though. Okay, NCAA, but you don't really see that in other American sports, though.
Yeah.
Like, no organization in pro sports is ever getting hit like this. It doesn't exist. Well, but there it does. And, FIFA, and some of their rulings have been fair, others have been questionable, but they're stiff punishments normally. I mean, you're talking about some severe, you're debilitating an organization by sending them down a couple levels, by docking them 10 points.
Well, know that it's not always FIFA, too. I mean, there are other entities.
Right. I mean, you obviously have your regional governing bodies that can do this
your
stuff.
Local FA, friendly local FA doling out punishments left and right, arbitrarily.
But so we'll get into that and just kind of what all that means, the correlations with American sports and how it doesn't exist here outside of college athletics. So let's get into the EPL.
All right.
Do you want to start with...
Should we start with Spurs this week?
Do you want to start with Spurs? Yeah, I guess we can start with Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, we may as well.
You want to rip the Band-Aid is what you're saying.
Well, I do. And it's also going to... this game is one of the games where the storyline isn't really so much what happened in it, but more what didn't happen. So there was
a lot that didn't happen.
Yeah, there was a lot that didn't happen. So let's talk about the sporting side of it first before we get into the larger issue that everyone probably wants to hear about. Spurs clearly have an issue with creating in the final third. It's something I've harped on, since day one of the podcast.
When I saw that they've only had 6 goals from open play this season.
Yep. We've had 4 from penalties, which kind of not the best thing to rely on game in and game out.
No. Can't always guarantee those are going to happen.
Tottenham dominated away from home today. I don't know how many times I've said this season. We dominated a match, but couldn't turn it into anything. I think we only had 6 shots.
I saw a couple of your tweets where you just screamed, somebody shoot the ball.
Somebody shoot the goddamn ball is what I wanted to yell the entire time.
Yeah, I sometimes feel that with Chelsea. It's possession doesn't mean much if you're not doing anything with it.
Exactly. What was the phrase I said today? Oh, Tottenham always trying to walk it in. Oh, wait, that's an Arsenal saying. But that is exactly what we do. It's just maddening. Someone just take the shot. So that is clearly an issue that needs to be resolved. The lack of ability to score from open play is ridiculously concerning. Now, I do think this. If they can figure out how to score from open play, this team is going to be scary good. Their defense is super squeaky tight at the moment. There's nothing getting through it, which is unusual for a Tottenham side, to say the least. But we just have to get over the hump of not finding a way to actually put the ball in the back of the net. So that's the sporting side. That's what happened as far as the stats show. The big story obviously goes into a topic that is everywhere. Yeah. And especially in American sports. It's the topic that is leading headlines day in and day out, especially in the NFL and college football. Headlines?
It is.
Okay, good.
Concussions.
Yeah. Head injuries.
There's no real telling if that's what that was. We don't.
Yeah, for those who aren't sure exactly what we're talking about, Tottenham's goalkeeper, Hugo, starting goalkeeper for France, took a really, really strong knee to the temple from
Lukaku. And even Lukaku, right away, was like, you might want to go ahead and check this guy out.
And Lloris was, face down on the turf.
Just like a rag doll.
Like a rag doll, and not moving at first. So everyone's rightly concerned. And when Lukaku's yelling about it, like you know that something's...
Lukaku, by the way, a guy who just a couple weeks ago doesn't remember the goal he scored because he got knocked out as well.
Yeah, so he knows what it's like to get clocked a good one in the head. But and ironically enough, he did have to come out from the knee injury he suffered from kneeing Hugo Lloris's head at full sprint. But so anyway,
that's a tough noggin, man.
Yeah, it is a tough noggin.
Blow out a dude's knee.
Not only that, but that dude's knee of all people.
Knee normally beats head.
Yeah, it normally does. I've definitely taken a knee to the temple, and it is a bad, bad thing. I got up, got crushed, and was laying on the ground, and you could hear the referee. This was in my senior year of college, and the referee was clearly saying, like, you need to go off.
Right.
And I immediately popped up thinking, I'm not coming off, and tried to yell at the referee, like, I'm fine, I'm not coming off. I was yelling in the wrong direction because I couldn't see anything.
That's awesome.
So the ref was like, no, you need to step off. Like,
you're
okay, you're right.
And I'm over here.
You're absolutely right. I'll go off. Someone needs to walk me there.
He like the boxer that goes to the wrong corner.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no, actually, you're sitting over there.
Yeah, get out of my seat, man. So Lloris, they get him up very slowly, and the ref's saying, hey, you need to get off, and he walks off, and the trainers are right in his face, clearly saying, like, are you okay?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you saw that main trainer out there, and he's talking to Lloris. He goes over, he talks to AVB. He's talking to the official. He's talking to this guy and that guy. Clearly, he is concerned about his ability to continue with the match. And obviously, you look in the NFL and college football, some of the protocol that goes into now, a lot of the protocol that exists in the NFL is for this very reason.
Mm-hmm.
And for what you just said happened to you.
Yeah.
Most guys try to fight this whole thing.
Yeah, no one wants to come off.
And nobody wants to come off. Nobody wants to have the evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's clearly what the trainer was trying to get him off for, at least that much, just to do further evaluations.
Probably 2 to 3 solid minutes of Lloris saying no, like, I want to stay out on the field. And you could see...
And he started doing it like his little jogging.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'm
fine.
And you could see he was trying to convince him. But he also, in the immediate aftermath of it, looked extremely foggy, like slow reactions. And it was clear that the safest option for Hugo Lloris after that type of an incident was he needed to come off.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part of it is Brad Friedel was called up off the bench.
He took his jacket off.
Took his jacket off, had his gloves on.
I was surprised he was wearing a jersey under that. I thought he just had like a shirt and tie.
Normally he's just hanging out over there, but he gets up and Friedel had a great attitude about it. He had a good laugh.
When he
went and sat down.
Now you're gonna let the concussed guy go?
He just kind of laughed and was like, I'll just go take my seat. It's probably still warm.
Yeah.
So Friedel was up, and it was clear that he was going to be subbed out. The worst part from a Spurs perspective is we needed a proactive sub right before this. Like a field player needed to be made, take off.
Sure.
And
someone needed a little something
extra, to help put the team over the edge. And I'm like, well, crap, there goes that last sub. That kind of sucks, but the safe thing is we need to get Hugo off.
You got to get him off, yeah.
And Hugo demanded that he go back on, and he played the rest of the match. No, thank God nothing else happened.
But, I mean, it's crazy because we saw everything that happens, that American sports, that the NFL, college football have tried to avoid, which is, the player fighting it off, and then because coach wants to keep things going, he doesn't want to have to make a change, he listens to the player instead of the medical staff.
Yeah.
I've seen this time. I've seen, in football games, you'll see a member of the training staff go and steal that player's helmet so that he cannot enter the field again.
Yep.
And you see that a lot. Like they're like, we got to take your helmet. You're not allowed back in.
Yep.
We will steal your helmet from you. And all these things happen for that reason. Because you're trying to do what's safe, which means removing them from the field of play, doing further evaluations that need to be done right afterwards. And here we saw just like what we used to see, which is manager saying, hey, he's good. We got to keep going. Back on the field, you.
I think the craziest part of it was really the reaction to all of it. So I can't remember who tweeted this out, but someone put this perfectly. the American fan or the American soccer fan's perspective or commentator's perspective was instantly like, it's ridiculous what Tottenham are doing right now. You know, they're putting that player's life at risk, and we need to get him off the field. Don't they know how dangerous this is? And to their credit, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, I mean, it's what should have happened.
What should have happened.
The English perspective was like, top bloke. You know, that guy, look at him
really
soldiering
strong.
on. You know, it's really a way different perspective. And someone made a ridiculous comment, like if AVB had just put his foot down and pulled him out, it would have put soccer 5 years ahead of where they currently are.
Such a Stone Age idiotic caveman philosophy there.
It is very like traditional English, and I
Which,
get
by the way,
it.
speaking of traditional English, I'm looking at this photo here of Loris. He's down like a ragdoll, but right behind him in the stands, about 3 rows in, there's a guy smoking a pipe.
Welcome to England.
This guy just kind of he's down. See,
he took quite the knock to the head.
And apparently Wilford Brimley's sitting next to him.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's
with his diabetes.
It's shocking to see that in other countries. Normally we're kind of the American culture is behind the times in a lot of the stuff.
Slothful.
But we see here that like we're way out in front of this crap.
Well, I wouldn't say we're way out in front of it.
I would say
we have a head start.
I would say leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Ahead.
We're at least 2 good car lengths ahead of them.
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely a debate, and if nothing else, I hope it just starts a discussion on the topic over there. Lloris should have come out, and it was the wrong decision for him to stay on. I'm glad it worked out for everyone. Apparently his wife tweeted out that he's doing okay tonight.
Yeah.
But that said, it seemed like a rather risky proposition to put your goalkeeper on the line like that, all in the sake of a result.
And you got Brad Fraile's hopes up.
Yeah.
The worst part about it.
Yeah, poor Brad.
What a crappy thing to do. All right, let's there is one other thing I want to mention on your match, but that goes into, let's go to this match right here. City 7.
Woo.
Norwich not showing up to this one. No.
Yeah, they may as well not have shown up at all.
I segue to this match and not to Chelsea's because A, I want to avoid that as long as I can.
Yep.
And B,
you're not getting out of it.
It gets into something that a couple of years ago ended up being the difference, and that's goal differential.
Yep.
And we just saw City do what helped them out a couple of years ago, which is have blowout victories. Against Norwich, actually, was the
ironically enough
was the club that helped them out last time around, 2 years ago. But you look at like a club like Tottenham, where they're sitting with 20 points, but
they have a +4 goal differential right now.
That's not that great.
+4. Now, what is comforting is Chelsea and Liverpool just ahead of us in the table, even on points at 20, only have goal differentials of 7 and 8. But that's still almost, at least twice as much.
But City has 17.
17.
Plus 17.
Sitting down in fifth place.
Arsenal plus 13.
Yeah.
And no one else is near them in that.
No. It is these type of games that can win you titles.
Yeah. No one was thinking about that when they slapped around Norwich a couple years ago. Was thinking, wow, boom, that just gave them that edge over United.
This blowout won them the title. No, I mean
but it did. That blowout won them the title.
It absolutely did. Yeah. So I mean that was pretty incredible. The other storyline that was kind of big about this match, of course, was what I mentioned earlier on in the pod. Joe Hart getting sat, much as we have been predicting and calling for weeks.
Got benched.
Yeah. In favor of a guy that I'm not. Should I even try this? Jose Pantamalone? I probably just added Pants in there because it sounds like it's in his name.
I think it's Pantilimon.
Pantilimon.
So that's what I got here.
Okay.
Pantilimon.
Okay. So
Pantilimon.
Pantilimon.
He looks like he's 18 years old.
Well, he probably is. I mean, no. Does anyone know anything about him? We don't need to spend any time looking it up because the answer is no.
He probably doesn't even have a Wikipedia.
No.
On the team page, his name is in red in Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Which means page does not exist.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. You're so unimportant that you don't have a page on Wikipedia like me. So, no, Joe finally gets dropped for a no-name, and it's the way he's played is deserved, and I'm glad to see it happen. But as it turns out,
Romanian.
He's Romanian, huh? But
6'8"
monster.
The ghoul.
Well, what do you expect from Romania?
Yeah, though they are kind of creepy people.
Yeah. But that said, I mean, City they could have gone out with no goalkeepers and had been fine in this match, apparently.
Yeah, I didn't understand that, really. Was this really the best match to go, Joe, you're sitting?
It was a safe match.
They had 7 shots, 1 on goal.
Yeah, I mean, it was safe. That was the biggest thing. It wasn't a match where you probably should have your number 1 goalkeeper in there. You don't want to teach him a lesson against, United or Chelsea or something along those lines.
And Daily Mail's saying that he's actually already going to be marked down as Joe Hart will be sitting this midweek against CSKA Moscow.
Good for him. He's earned that spot on the bench. So we didn't get a litany of shots of him on the bench like I had expected.
No, but I am looking at a couple photos of him.
Yeah,
he's got his scarf on. He's got his coat on. He's got it. He's holding his keeper gloves. Hey, you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. Norwich,
maybe he'll get hurt.
Pilkington could just blow up on us here.
You never know. So that was the other storyline, aside from the 7 goals that they poured in on them. The other kind of interesting thing about the 7 goals, it was 7 different scores.
Yeah, because they counted that first one as an own goal. It was I was giving credit to Aguero on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it probably was. But as far as the stats are concerned, they gave it to 7 different players, and it was an own goal in the first one for Johnson. But a blowout of massive proportions that could have a lot of weight down the road.
Remember this match, because if we get down to it, this could be one of those things that keeps them, in a spot, to keep them in a title chase or keep them, ahead of whoever's right up there with them.
Well, one of their competitors this season also had a, decent win. The neighbors from across town in Manchester.
A decent one. Fulham 1, United 3.
Yep. Not a result that probably should have happened.
It was what should have happened, and we saw, the usual suspects were there. Van Persie with a goal, Rooney with another goal.
Yep.
By the way, did you see this one? Moyes said Rooney is perfect captain's material for in the future, obviously.
The guy who has tried to force his way out of the club twice in the past 6 months.
And currently still doesn't have a new deal.
Yeah.
So that could always come up to haunt him at any point in the season.
Hey, Wayne, we may someday make you captain. You know that one.
Yeah.
You want to sign with us now.
Well, you stay with us. You'll be captain.
That David Moyes and his clever...
You can't go to Chelsea and be captain. John Terry's having a resurgence just like you. He's not leaving.
Yeah, he's going to be there forever.
Yeah. And Dirty Racist is going to be there.
You know that Colleen will be the first person that John moves for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That might have already happened.
It probably already has. They're on the same international team together.
Did I ever tell you this story? I was so I cover the big Western Southern Open, part of the ATP Tour and the WTA Tour here in Cincinnati. Great event, and a lot of international fans show up to it. So you get a lot of people from England coming to see, Andy Murray, who, they refer to him as, he's British.
Yeah.
But you're like, wait, isn't he Scottish? Don't you guys don't like each other? And they're currly going to, vote to,
they'll claim whatever they can.
They're currently getting ready to vote for their independence.
Yeah.
But he's British.
Mm-hmm.
So they go, they'll be there, and obviously everyone from other countries are there. Rooting on, Nadal or Federer or whoever. Saw this. I think it was the first year I did this, in 2010. Father and son, both Brits, because I heard them talking.
Mm-hmm.
Both wearing England jerseys.
Yeah.
Dad was wearing a John Terry jersey.
Ugh.
You want to guess what Junior was wearing?
Oh, man, tell me it's like a Ferdinand.
No, it was a Wayne Bridge jersey.
Oh, yeah, it's the best.
The Wayne Bridge,
the only one that could have been better.
John Terry combo.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that was awesome.
And it's probably so true, seeing as how his dad had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was.
Oh, man.
It was one of those moments where you're like, I need to Just follow these people around and just go to the.
Can I ask how you thought that was okay to wear out?
Yeah, did you not think this one through?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the American here. You should have already known this.
They just don't care. Those Brits.
Yes.
No big deal. Yeah, so United, they did win out, though.
They did.
So, we could talk about a lot from this match. But
They're
I think
starting to string together wins, I guess.
Yeah, they're looking better.
String together positive results.
Yeah, that's very true. I think the bigger story here is I think was that the last game that Martin Jol is going to have in charge of this team?
Yeah. I mean, if we're betting between him and Pardew, it's him right now.
Yeah, I think so. It seems pretty likely.
Yeah. Maybe, again, we talked about it before. That's probably why he's bum on this whole Dempsey thing. Because what does he care? He ain't going to be there for it.
I would bring him in, but I just don't know if I'm going to be here.
I'm sacked by that point.
So I think it's pretty likely after that loss and mind you, a midweek loss in the Capital One Cup, that they are probably looking at finding a new manager in Fulham.
Oh, they have to be. So. They absolutely have to be. I'm trying to pull up their schedule here real quickly, where they go from here. Yeah, you talked about the Capital One Cup loss. Oh, it doesn't get. They got to go to Liverpool.
No. A team that themselves just suffered a loss and are looking for a little bit of a bounce back.
Liverpool away is their next match.
Ouch. So that I think
that's
provides
the death nail.
Yeah.
That's going to be your death nail right there.
Yeah. If that doesn't, if Jol survives the week, that'll probably be the last one.
Well, and if not that, if they let him go if they keep him after Liverpool. You got Swansea and Southampton right after that. A loss to either one of those, you're gone.
Yep.
So they might not even let you finish the game.
Days are numbered, Martin Jol. It's been fun.
They might just march you out at halftime to midfield and do it over the PA system.
Martin, you're fired.
Attention, Martin. Bing, boom. Attention, Martin Jol. You are fired.
Yeah. Expect it to happen. So I think that is a good segue, though, into... with Liverpool being their next matchup, let's talk a little bit about their match this weekend, which was kind of billed as the big match of the weekend.
Well, they put it on the network. NBC playing it there. Liverpool, Arsenal.
At the Emirates. And Arsenal come out 2-0 winners.
They look dangerous. I mean, it's kind of what we talked about. If they're on, they're great. If this guy's doing, if Ramsey's playing well.
Which he is.
Well, he had an amazing goal.
Yeah, which we just keep saying. So he is responsible for genocide, folks. We're
just waiting to see.
We hypothesized that last week, and it's only logical that all death in the world right now can be blamed on Aaron Ramsey.
Who's going down this week?
Could be anyone. This past week, though.
Was Lou Reed a preemptive strike?
It might have been. It was Aaron Ramsey's fault. Let's just blame it there. Ramsey also partly responsible for killing Liverpool's midfield in this match. I mean, Arsenal's midfield just completely overran Liverpool's throughout the entirety of the game.
I mean, yeah, for a 2-0 match, it really does not speak to how well Arsenal pretty much just had their way with this match.
They really did.
I mean, you had your moments where Sturridge or Suarez got loose with the ball in their attacking end, but those were few and far between, and outside of that, it was just Arsenal just kind of just setting up, in hockey, you kind of, right in front of the goal or above the goal there, you kind of want to set up what's called like an umbrella.
Yep.
And you just start passing it between each other until someone gets open. And that's all they were doing.
And it worked for them. And they had more opportunities than they really finished. And like you said, it didn't really paint a picture of how dominant Arsenal were in this match. Now, you did mention him a minute ago. They do still have some holes, and you almost have to wonder, like, they're going to run out of this hot streak at some point, and whether it's going to be Ramsey, losing his scoring touch, or maybe this is just me being hopeful that this is what's going to happen, because right now they just looked a class above Liverpool, who had also been like the class of the league to this point.
Right.
So, does this make them like title favorites at this point?
Well, I mean, I said it at the top of the show, 5 points clear. Obviously, we're not even we're just getting into the holiday season, so there's still so much still to be played.
As a Spurs fan who once was joyously singing about Mind the Gap when we were 11 points clear of Arsenal 2 years ago.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Those things can go away quickly. So, look, I think they are probably title favorites as far as what we've seen so far. There is a shoe that could drop with this squad. Whether it actually happens and whether Wenger's able to reinforce the squad even more in January, we'll have to wait and see. But they look good.
Well, and next week we have what really is one of the big statement games of the early season. Arsenal United.
Yeah.
Statement opportunities for both. I mean, either Arsenal can solidify themselves as the favorite going forward, going into the winter, or United can show that they truly have
what it takes to rebound and get themselves back into the season.
Balance things out and righted the ship.
Yep.
So that'll be really interesting to see. That is next weekend. That's at the Emirates.
Ooh.
So that could be telling what the next couple months will look like.
And if they can somehow manage to pull something out of that, exercise some demons maybe and actually hand it to United, as United have done to them probably more often than not in the last few seasons, it could really define how either one of their seasons go, if not both.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I've pissed around enough. Let's do this.
All right, get into it, buddy.
Newcastle 2, Chelsea nothing.
I don't think anyone was really expecting this match to go this way.
I tweeted it out. Out of the 5-match stretch that they are currently in, Schalke, City, Arsenal, Newcastle, and then Schalke again. This was not the one I expected them to lose. Because so far, we'll see what happens midweek here, but they had won the rest of those.
Yeah.
This was not the one I was worried about.
Well, they've been so convincing, the last few games out. We had talked about on last week's pod about how Mourinho seems to have finally gotten everything clicked.
As far as this season goes, they had been playing their best football going into this weekend.
Fernando Torres was savior just a few days ago.
And one could say that Newcastle was in the opposite. They had just let Southampton out of the basement.
Yeah.
They were easily, you could say that at that point they might be playing some of their worst football.
Yep.
They've had a few stretches where you could say that, but there was nothing about this match on paper that said, oh, Newcastle has this.
Exactly.
They got this.
And I don't know if it was, you said there were some great quotes from Mourinho.
Mourinho had some good ones. Here's some of the quotes as transcribed onto Chelsea's Twitter feed. Mourinho, we deserve to lose. I'm not sure if Newcastle deserved to win, but we definitely deserve to lose.
So a slight aimed at the other team, used as an insult for your own
right
team.
Back at Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the best one. This one had us cracking up before we started recording here. I feel like I picked 11 wrong players. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but I always have this feeling when I lose.
11 wrong players. That's just awesome. Nothing like faith in your squad or throwing them under the bus. Yeah, probably a little bit more of the second.
The problem was you can't look at this match and say, boy, Chelsea just couldn't figure this out, or they couldn't do this.
No.
Outside of unlocking Torres to get him free, which there was some tactical, I saw you point out, there's some tactical questioning of letting Mata kind of just float.
Yeah.
That was kind of bogging down things for Torres.
Yeah, it seems like Mata tends to drift inside a little bit more than what they're used to playing out there. And I think Torres is at his most effective when he's able to dip back into the midfield and kind of link up play, build up, and it really narrowed his space and didn't allow him to operate the way he had the last few weeks.
Yeah. There was, outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot of errors as far as Chelsea's play. No. They had many chances.
And, in fact, they completely dominated the first half.
I mean, first half, it was set piece after set piece after set piece.
Yeah.
And they crapped the bed every single time.
They did.
You had these breaks even in the second half where Hazard was running free and then just gave up the worst cross ever.
Yeah.
Just put it in the seats. And it was just, I tweeted out, This is just not our day.
Nope.
This was I forget what happened at that time. I think it was after Williams' amazing strike there late.
Oh, the one that he just put like 100 miles up.
And somehow didn't get, someone got in front of that one. I was like, this is just not our day.
No.
It's just what it is.
It wasn't happening for you.
I will say, though, and this is shocking, and I was kind of racking my brain as to when the last time I could really say this has happened, and the answer was never. Frank Lampard looked terrible.
Yeah, he
did.
He
straight up looked awful.
I straight thought that he was a sub.
Yeah, you didn't even realize he had started. He was playing that bad.
I really didn't even notice that he was playing for the first 60 minutes of the match.
Physically and mentally, he kind of just looked out of sorts, looked lost. He was making bad passes. He was, when he was making passes to the right guy, he would kick him short.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of guys were struggling somewhat with the pace of the ball on the wet surface, but Lampard looked completely lost. I didn't get a chance to see what his stats looked like, but I can't imagine he completed more than 7 passes. He was all over the joint.
Yeah,
he lost possession regularly. Just dispossessed every chance they could. They were able to do it. He looked awful. Well, and Mourinho, in turn, pulled him very quickly in the second half.
Well, he's an old man, so.
But up until this point, he hasn't looked that old.
Well, he is that old, Brian.
He is. He's very old.
Yeah.
Newcastle, what can you say? They played a good game. They rebounded from a nightmare last week. Pardew, at this point, I would say, is
safe for now.
Safe-ish.
Yeah, he's safe-ish. It's Sissoko and Remy had a link up in that second half where the two of them were on the same freaking wavelength. And it shows you the promise that's within that team.
But I would say at the same time, we didn't see anything offensively too different than what Newcastle's been trying to do all year, which is just that kind of just go with the deep pass, get somebody downfield, and then go from there.
Yep.
And when it's working, it's great. When it's not working, you're doing nothing.
Yeah.
You're barely even, getting into that final third of the field.
Well, they had a game where it actually worked.
It clicked. St. James Park is just St. James Park and Loftus Road. Chelsea just something happens. There's kryptonite in that field.
You guys don't like those places.
They just struggle. Newcastle for the third year in a row has punked us when we were clearly the better team. Last 3 years, at least one of the matches we played against them, they just absolutely just slapped us in the head.
Maybe you can see if you can get both matches played at Stamford Bridge next year.
We should try to lobby for that.
Hey, anything you can.
Get some of that Russian, get some rubles up there. Soften things up a little bit.
Hey, just toss them a few rubles.
Buy you some stuff.
Yeah. Well,
we'll give you Demba Ba back. You can have him back. We're not.
Just take him. Just take him.
He's just hanging out in the garage.
Demba Ba for 3 points.
Yeah.
Would Newcastle make that swap? I hope not.
I would hope not.
Yeah.
I like Remy.
He's fun to watch.
He is fun to watch. I kind of wish he was on a team where he could, have fun people around with him.
Yeah.
So it could be real fun and score a lot of goals.
They could be without him in short order.
Yeah, that's true.
He is facing a rape charge.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Probably why he ended up at Newcastle and not one of the bigger clubs that were sniffing around him earlier on in the transfer window.
Well, I'm sure Harry Redknapp, that's just his type of guy. Not surprising that he's on loan from QPR.
That's his kind of guy.
Yeah.
What are you saying about Redknapp?
I'm saying that Redknapp's a little shady.
Listen, that's Super Frank's uncle.
He would take a gamble on a guy with a shady personality type.
I think when you're Harry Redknapp and you're trying to make the great escape for the 90th time, you're pretty much just going to beg, borrow, and deal your way.
Bring whomever. I don't really care what their hash is.
By hook or by crook, we're getting this done.
Yeah, I don't really care.
And we didn't.
I don't care if he's raped or killed anyone, as long as he can put in goals.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't do it on the field.
Yeah.
Leave that crap at home.
Well, hopefully it'll be a better week for the two of us next week.
Let's just quickly run through some of the crap matches that happened. Hull 1, Sunderland 0. Sunderland playing the entire second half with 9 men.
Thanks to 2 vicious red card tackles.
Pretty much one right after the other.
Yeah, within 2 minutes of one another. The first one was from Lee Cattermole, which is pretty much, par for the course with him. The second one, which was probably worse, was from Andreas DeSena. He just straight stamped the guy's leg. Like, you could see him lift his leg up and consciously punch it down. And seemed to, like, not get why he was being sent off, which I thought was really odd. But Hull, despite that, only managed to win 1-0.
True to form. Yeah. Here's the thing.
On an own goal.
Own goal.
Yeah.
They scored no goals, essentially.
The best part of that was that own goal happened before either one of those red cards.
Yeah.
So
the second, I tweeted out, I said, if Hull can't score twice in the second half against a 9-man Sunderland, I'm calling for immediate, instant relegation. Just get them out of here.
Yeah. They probably deserve it after that.
Just let Burnley come up now.
So we also had Stoke 1, Southampton 1. I think this one also had a rather interesting goal story in it.
Yeah, that got cracking pretty early.
12 seconds in, Begovic, Stoke's goalkeeper, scores.
The keeper?
Yeah. Had a nice hop right over our Bork's goal.
Well, he learned from Tim Howard. Let that wind just carry that ball, man. Just kick it up into the stratosphere and let the wind just ride it out.
Goalkeepers seem to hate this, though. I mean, they feel so bad for their counterpart on the other end because they know how humiliating that type of goal is to be scored upon.
Sure, but I wouldn't be crying too much if you're Stoke. You got to
get your goals where you can.
You got yourself a draw with a pretty formidable Southampton side.
Yeah. So it was Rodriguez who got the goal for them. Hey, getting a point on the road in a cold, wet Stoke, as it was this weekend, is always a good result.
West Brom 2, Crystal Palace 0, whatever. Moving on. West Ham and Villa 0-0 draws. I'm assuming Guzan started that?
He did.
Boom!
Yeah.
Another clean sheet
for Brad.
There we go.
And another Claret and Sky Blue derby. But that was about the most interesting aspect to that match. There was really nothing to it.
Cardiff City gets the W.
In the first South Wales derby.
Against Swansea. Wasn't that great of a match.
Mm-mm.
I'm still looking for photos of Vincent Tan. Did we see what he was wearing? Did he go with his traditional?
I didn't see him. I watched this on a recorded broadcast. I watched it on the DVR. And I was kind of doing some other things in the process. So I didn't necessarily see any Vincent Tan sightings, but I'm sure he was there in fine form. Now, the one thing I do want to say about this match, because it was a rather boring match, they really hyped the hell out of this game. And I heard one of the announcers go as far to say that this is one of the greatest rivalries in world football.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You're joking, right?
No.
Who said that?
I'm not even sure who said it. But I remember,
Did Twillman say that?
That does sound like something that Twillman would say, but it was actually on TV, so it was from someone in NBC's broadcast team. But either way, let's be clear here. This is not one of the greatest rivalry matches in all of world football. I can name a dozen matches that are probably more important than this or more seismic. So while a very cool occurrence, let's not get too far.
By the way, I'm currently, while you're talking, I'm going through the photos on the Daily Mail's article. Haven't found a picture of Tan yet, but I have found a picture of a Tan out sign in the crowd.
Nice.
And it, of course, is in blue.
Nice.
Still yet. I haven't seen him yet. Come on, Tan. Where are you?
My favorite thing was the Swansea fans were singing to the Cardiff City fans. You guys are a shit Wrexham. And, of course, Wrexham is another Welsh side that wears red. So that went pretty harsh against the Cardiff City fans who are now red, formerly
found
blue.
Tan.
Oh, yeah?
He's got a full, nice, beautiful pinstripe suit, white collar shirt, and a red home jersey.
Yes. Underneath the jacket, I'm hoping, or is the jacket?
Underneath the jacket.
Okay.
Over the dress shirt.
Okay. If he had done the full suit over top, or with the jersey over top of the full suit, I think that literally would be enough to make the world explode.
I was hoping that his new head of scouting, the
23-year-old
Kazakhstani was sitting next to him.
No,
I think it was just his son.
He was actually removed from his responsibilities. Because,
already?
Yeah, because not because Tan had a change of heart. No. It's because the English Home Office realized he didn't have the correct papers.
Uh-oh. So
So he's temporarily removed. We don't know if he's going to make a reappearance.
He's just got to get his papers in order.
Yeah, he's going to go have Borat sign it for him. Then he'll be back. So,
You like
Titus Bramble.
All right, let's get into some domestic footy.
Yep.
As we continue to sit here and watch what is currently now a 1-0 LA over Real Salt Lake.
A fantastic goal from Sean Franklin from LA. If you haven't
phenomenal.
seen this yet, I mean, it's a crazy strike from distance.
I'm sure by Tuesday or Wednesday you've now seen this. But
one would hope.
Wowzers.
But if you haven't, go watch it.
It might even make SportsCenter's top 10.
It could.
The rest of the highlights won't even be mentioned, and they may even forget to tell you who won the match.
Yeah, they probably
will. But they might show this goal.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about LA while we're talking about the match they're currently winning. They are making efforts to become the first ever three-peat MLS Cup champion. I don't know that this is their year, though. They have Omar Gonzalez is a little banged up. Landon Donovan's been playing on a hurt ankle for the better part of a month now.
Now that he's back from his walkabout.
Yeah,
Fresh off a walkabout. Landon Donovan having a decent MLS season, starting a little bit later than everyone else. But LA, trying to make that attempt. I don't know if that's something they're going to be able to pull off, but it's definitely been a big storyline. I guess here's the question, and it's kind of one that is kind of just a general sports question. Are dynasties good for the league? Are dynasties good for your sport?
I don't know. I mean,
is a single team's dominance helpful or hurtful?
I think in MLS's current development, I think it's a bad thing. The league is geared
because it shows so much. It shows disparity.
Yeah, and the league is geared towards parity, and I think right now they'd rather spread that love out. I think they'd love to get a title into Cascadia, to justify all these fans.
Absolutely.
And all the passion that they have there. Whether LA winning it is a bad thing for MLS, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing.
Because, I mean, they have, especially even more so before this year, they have the highest profile players with LA. I mean, last year, actually, with the recent stretch with Beckham, also you have Landon. Those are the two biggest names. And now, Landon's still the face of American soccer.
Oh, yeah.
He's still the face of American soccer.
Yeah, he is.
If you ask the average sports casual fan
to name an American soccer player,
that's the first name out of their mouth.
More than likely.
Possibly for most of them, the only name out of their mouth.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people would say Clint Dempsey these days.
Yeah, Dempsey's star is rising.
Mm-hmm.
Odd
for a 31-year-old.
I would still say it's Landon, though.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get to see if they can hang on to that. Some other games that kind of went down. I think we should probably start in that play-in round. So the Sounders, who we were just talking about a second ago, they made it to this stage in the playoffs thanks to a nice 2-0 win at home over Colorado.
Yeah, dispatched them nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty dominant game for them. They actually looked good, seemed to be shaking the rust off this terrible...
But as we often say, that's not what no one was expecting anything different, really.
No, not really.
I mean, Colorado, we kind of pointed out, is really the weakest club of the 10.
Yeah, most likely. Very inexperienced as far as the playoffs are concerned.
Sure, and credit to them that they made it that far, but we knew it was going to happen once it became to playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other match was, of course, Houston winning 3-0 against Montreal. So, like we had said earlier, Houston just seemed to have this playoff gear that they reserve and don't actually use it all until they've actually reached the postseason.
That's that next level.
Yeah. So they made it out that way. So now we're at the conference semifinal stage. We've had a few matches that already have gone down this weekend. This one currently being played out between LA and Real Salt Lake is the last one. The last of the first legs. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown of these. We don't need to talk about them all that much, but there are a few storylines in there that are worth touching on. So the first of which was New England, Kansas City. New England running out kind of surprise winners, 2-1 at home. Another match played on an NFL field.
Beautiful, Gillette Stadium.
Yeah, a bastion,
a giant
mecca.
Patriot head right there at midfield.
Absolutely. That looked fantastic. So they kind of shocked my MLS Cup picks of Kansas City. Which
you a little worried about that?
I'm not
feeling
that
the heat?
worried.
This room is very warm.
It is a little warm, but it's not that kind of heat. No, I think they scored themselves a goal, so they're not totally, in the dark at this point. But I think it is going to be difficult for them to come back and kind of flip that hole that they're sitting within. The other game out east was the one that we've mentioned a couple times already today. The 2-2 draw between New York at Houston.
This was a 2-1 affair until extremely late in the match. In fact, one of the last kicks.
Yeah, it was Cummings ended up getting a last-second goal.
Right off a great corner.
Yep. Brad Davis.
It was so awesome just to see that stadium, full stadium there in Houston erupt.
Which is rare. A rare thing for them to pack that place up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the figures, but it looked packed.
Yeah, it was pretty full. The other big news in that is Olave getting the red card a little bit before that, which some people were kind of saying was...
Controversial call, some are going to say, but...
He's a guy that kind of defines his player type. I mean, he's very hot-headed, very emotional on the pitch, and he's either doing great things for you or doing bad things for you. And it's something that Houston's coaching staff had pointed out before the game, is that's a player they needed to neutralize because he had dominated them in their regular season meetings.
And listen, for those of you who say this is a controversial thing, it shouldn't have happened, and New York should not have had to play with 10 men, these things happen. I mean, you're going to have things go for you and against you, and within the same match. So,
Houston and Houston fans have been clamoring that the league has like a bias against them whenever New York plays them in the playoffs, and they've met the last 2 seasons as well. So this isn't something that.
But wait a minute,
they got a gift.
But didn't Houston eventually win?
Yeah, they
last
did.
Year?
So I mean, it feels weird.
So,
they felt
like
they're getting homer decisions.
Too much against you.
No. You still did make it through.
You still survived.
So this goes a little bit against their narrative, which is always nice to see. The referee's getting a little bit more of a break.
Yeah, favorable call, I guess.
Yeah. Out west, the other match, it was a big one last night. We had a Cascadia Cup, if you will, in the cup.
Yeah.
A cup within a cup.
Cup within cups.
Cup within a cups. So the Sounders hosted their dreaded rivals to the south, Portland. Portland, of course, won the West this year, so they're the top seed. And Portland ran out 2-1 winners in Seattle, which was a massive win for them.
Yeah.
Kind of a statement even.
And as I stated, it's made me happy because anytime the playoffs happen and I start seeing those NFL fields, I go, wow, I can't wait for this team to lose.
Yep.
So that we don't have to see
Seattle are paying for their sins today. So that was
just got to hope Kansas City can rev it up.
Yeah.
So we don't have to watch.
I'm not watching any more games in New England.
It's painful.
Yeah, it really is. Another thing that I think is worth pointing out about these MLS playoffs, there's been a lot of talk about the scheduling for them, which is kind of weird. As in, there's an international break that's coming up.
Sure.
November 11th through the 20th. MLS Cup isn't played off until December 6th or 7th. I can't remember which at this point.
Yeah, it's generally that first week there.
So that means that the playoffs would be played potentially during this international break. And MLS had originally said, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to take a break. No one really liked the idea of a 2-week break in the middle of the playoffs.
That would be kind of clunky.
But regardless, you're going to have that 2-week break because the conference semifinals are going to end, and you're going to get 2 weeks before MLS comes. So there's going to be another one
which
at
I
a
always
later
thought
point.
Is stupid also.
Yeah, but they're trying to kind of emulate what the NFL does with the Super Bowl. Give both teams adequate time to rest. 2 weeks seems a little excessive to me.
Unfortunately, the MLS does not have the luxury of having people always thinking about them, so they need to not just take hiatuses during their playoffs of any kind.
So with all that furor about that, fans saying, I don't want to wait 2 weeks for this, MLS said, well, maybe we'll consider, playing it out throughout the international break. Of course, the clubs then make a huge fit over this. They don't want to have this happen because that robs them of their best players at the most critical point in the entire season.
Yeah. Guy like Dempsey, a guy like Landon.
Big important players, they're going to get pulled up for these matches. Luckily, MLS had the sense to realize, what, this is probably the wrong thing to do. We're going to follow the international calendar for once. So I'm glad to see that settle out that way.
Sure, but now we are left with holes. We got holes.
2-week holes. So
it's not good.
No.
It's not what you want.
Further calls for perhaps switching over to an actual traditional FIFA calendar, maybe that would be worthwhile. But Anyway, food for thought as we move into the later stages of the playoffs.
One of the things we've been talking about, if you did move that to the traditional FIFA calendar, if the MLS was in line with everyone else, we'd be dealing with NFL fields
all year long
from mid-August to the end of December.
Well, never mind. Scrap that. Let's stay on our own calendar because I don't want any NFL lines out there.
Yeah, I don't want that either.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that kind of gives us a good, landing point for the time being.
Yeah. I wanted to get, we already kind of talked about the Eddie Gavin thing, and I was hoping to, I interviewed him a couple years ago during the World Cup, and I was hoping to have that audio. I don't have that with me. If I do find it, we'll play it, just if there's some good nuggets, because I love the guy.
Yeah, he's just a great all-around guy. I mean, if you've ever had a chance to meet Eddie Gavin, he's a super relaxed, super easygoing guy.
Super down to earth, yeah.
More than happy to talk to you. I mean, he definitely made time for you, whether you're a fan or whether you're a journalist. He was a guy that you knew was kind of an open door for you within the locker room, someone you could talk to. And it's sad to see him go on because he's kind of one of those inspirational players on the field. He's not necessarily the most gifted guy out there, but he's definitely a workhorse and someone who's going to give it all for the the badge on his shirt. And it's sad to see him go, especially when he's kind of entering what would normally be a player's prime. 27, 28.
Yeah.
We all wish we could retire at that age.
I feel like I'm in my prime, and that's my age.
Well, I'm at 31, and let me tell you.
Yeah. Not much tread left on the tires?
There's not much tread left on the tires by then. So maybe you are in your prime, buddy.
The other story that came out, obviously, we talked about it at the top. MLS to Miami. Part due.
Not exactly a great track record in town for MLS.
Here's the thing. Not exactly a great track record for professional sports in Miami.
Notoriously.
I tweeted this out on Tuesday. Miami attendance rankings with the professional sports last 3 years. The NFL, Miami Dolphins, franchise with a lot of history.
Right.
Only perfect team ever. They're kind of a big deal. That being said, in a 32-team league, their attendance rankings over the last 3 years, 28th, 32nd, 31st. Over in one of the suburbs there in Miami is the Florida Panthers of the NHL.
Yep.
Last 3 years, 17, 23, 25. That's a 30-team league.
So, dismal numbers there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's 17th.
Middle of the pack.
Last year's attendance was pretty good for everybody because it was a short season and people were able to sell tickets a little easier that way. Maybe something they should think about long term. Major League Baseball, obviously the one that a lot of people talk about because it's such a black eye for a league that is always Major League Baseball and a lot of these leagues, but Major League Baseball is one that recently, MLS always feels like they're kind of the one always under the gun for attendance. Major League Baseball has really been under the gun in the past couple of years for some of the attendance records for some of these cities.
Yeah.
Miami being kind of top of the list. They get a new stadium. It helps them to be, in 2012, 13th in attendance. That's decent, but it's sandwiched between a 27th this past season, and then the last season in playing in the Dolphins Stadium, which I forget the name because they change the sponsorship every other year. 28th.
Yeah.
So, attendance for pro sports in Miami.
Struggle.
It's not a soccer problem. If the NFL is struggling in Miami, and the NFL, a league that can print money, if they are struggling in your city to bring people in the doors, that's a massive problem.
And now we're going to put a second MLS franchise in the city and hope that it succeeds.
Yeah.
I think the really puzzling thing about all this is MLS has been very adamant for these new expansion clubs that are coming into the league that they have to come with a pre-built-in fan base.
They have to come with kind of a resume of their own. You have to have a track record of like, hey, look, we have this lower-level team, and
We have good turnout.
Great attendance, and there's a lot of buzz about them, and there's a built-in core supporters union and a fan base that's going to be there, and they obviously want this club to be as big as it can be. And
right. I mean, you see that with the 3 Cascadia teams that have come in. They were all prior lower league sides that came in.
Basically, you have to show a pre-existing culture of soccer.
Right. And, we saw that with all 3 of those teams. Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver all had big followings before MLS was there.
Yeah.
Montreal,
yeah.
Another
Impact
great
has been
example of that. They've been around for a long time, and they have a big, passionate following already. Orlando, the team that is more or less going to be Team 21 in MLS, their entire, staple of being able to get this new stadium deal was because they have great attendance for a small lower league team. Here we've handed off 2 marquee franchises, most likely, within the league to New York City FC and now Team Beckham in Miami.
And you know what?
Neither one of them have a supporters base.
But at least with, this New York City FC thing, it made sense to a point because you're bringing in these big investors, essentially, that are going to be pouring money. They had to pay the $100 million just to get in the door.
Prestige comes along with that.
There was a lot of financial gain from the get-go from the MLS. That's not going to exist here in Miami because Beckham's going to get a discount.
Right.
Because that was in his contract with the MLS when he came over. So it's not going to be the big $100 million payday to start this franchise up. So that's not there. We already talked about the fact that
they've failed before in that town.
They failed in the town before. Pro sports in general is an absolute struggle for attendance right now. NFL can't make it. Major League Baseball, everyone talks, they have this great Latin community. They love baseball. They love soccer. Well, they don't love baseball that much.
Because clearly they're not even filling the baseball stadium. So
they even went ahead and put the new Marlins Stadium in a heavily Latino area so that
they wouldn't have to travel as far.
They wouldn't have to drive way out to the suburbs. They could be right there. Didn't work.
I mean, it's a tricky proposition. And look, Beckham can choose to put his team wherever he wants to put his team. If he can get the investors to come on board with him and actually get the funding to make it happen, great.
Yeah.
He can put it where he wants. The issue that I think is really big is why is MLS willing to bend their rules so much? I mean, it's going to create this kind of classes of clubs within their own league, where we had to earn our stripes, and then there are these 2 clubs that
don't have to.
They just kind of got to break the rules and come in on their own rules. So it's definitely going to create some animosity. These are 2 teams that are going to be very hated, from the get-go.
By the way, you did mention the Fusion.
Mm-hmm.
I tweeted out their attendance figures as well.
Okay.
During their 4 years of existence.
Yeah.
Their 4 years, it was a 12-team league. Their attendance went as followed. 11th. 11th. 12th. And then they went out with a bang, 9th.
Yeah. And that was only because they were a decent team there last year and made the playoffs. Yeah. So definitely not a town with a lot of tradition. It's going to be interesting to see how it works out.
By the way, it looks to be a 1-0 final there.
LA pulling it out over RSL. So that's 2 of my teams that I picked that are just off to a bad start.
Not looking good.
In MLS playoffs. And I'm the pundit here, folks.
So, to put a bow on the whole Miami situation, I think there'll be more to talk about down the road. I'm going to try to get my buddy Simon Evans. He lives in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of been following this story since it is in his backyard.
Get a little bit of a pulse on the story.
Yeah, kind of see where, and we can look at these figures for attendance, whatever, but what is the real vibe right now in that city for something like this coming in? Is there a buzz that we just don't see that now exists that didn't exist back when the Fusion was around?
Yeah.
Let's get into this now.
Okay.
We had a question. Dave, my buddy Dave, Arsenal Dave, he sent us a question basically kind of talking about FIFA and how they run their sanctions and how we don't see that here.
No. So, I mean, Dave laid out a couple of examples, and these are what he kind of termed competitive penalties, and I think that's a great way of putting it. It's a penalty that is put down by the governing body to punish you competitively and put you at a disadvantage because you've broken some sort of rules. Mm-hmm. So he did give out a couple great examples. So he talked about Rangers that have been relegated all the way down. Last year they were playing in the Scottish 4th Division. Mind you, this is one of the largest teams in Scotland playing in the lowest league possible there. They're now playing in the 3rd Division. Another example that he laid out is Coventry City, currently playing in the Championship within England. And they started off the season with a 10-point deduction because they had financial irregularities. And they couldn't keep themselves out of the red.
Which seems to be kind of, that's the flavor of the month. That was kind of Rangers were kind of along the same lines.
Yep,
it was
a growing
financial
trend.
Problems.
Yeah, it's a growing trend. All these little clubs that don't have the revenue streams trying to compete and make their way up, up the ladder. It's a lot harder to do now. It takes a lot more money. So Coventry City are having a great year in the Championship, but they probably won't get promoted or even be able to make the playoffs because they started off the year with a 10-point deduction. He gave another great example, Malaga from Spain. Mm-hmm. Made a great run all the way to the Champions League semifinals last year. Awesome story. Their coach, Manuel Pellegrini, of course, now coaching Manchester City. But anyway, they made it all the way to that stage, but they were banned from Europe this year because they haven't paid their players in over 6 months.
It's kind of a problem.
So, it's a
I'm surprised the players have taken the field if they haven't been paid for 6 months.
Hey, got to earn a paycheck somehow.
But you're not.
Well, maybe you will. If I play well today, maybe I'll get a check. So, these were a couple great examples, what the kind of penalties that you're seeing placed on teams when they break financial rules in particular.
Sure, and you see other kind of instances of this. There's obviously, you see a lot of, especially in some Serie A and Liga matches.
Yeah, it's rampant in Spain right now with the financial situation.
Well, you see that. You see match fixing. You see kind of something that's a little more common outside of England and some of the other, like Germany. I don't see it much there. Or England, you really don't see it at all. But the fan bans.
Yeah.
Where you have to play a home game.
In front of an empty house.
So that's zero revenue as far as tickets.
Yep.
Great for TV. I'm sure beIN Sports really happy because they seem to be airing a lot of those matches.
Yeah, they do like showing empty stadium matches on beIN Sports.
At some point, if you're beIN Sports, do you just say, we don't need to invest money in crowd mics anymore?
Well, I don't think they are investing any of their money. I think they're purchasing a feed. And then just having
they're
guys,
a feed, but
and having
whoever
their guys,
they're doing that from,
just don't give us the feed. We'll play generic match music in the background. Yeah,
we'll just do our you don't need to give us the crowd feed. We'll have our own guys just talk in silence.
Yeah. So, but what Dave was really trying to get at with this is, we don't really see much of this in American sports. Like, do we have any examples of it? So
NCAA, we see a lot of it.
Yeah, we do see a lot of this in NCAA, and like you were saying at the beginning of the podcast, NCAA and soccer kind of have a really funky way in which they run themselves.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week about, FIFA's going to do things the way they want to do it.
Right.
And sometimes it's going to make sense, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they're going to be nice to this guy and tough on that guy and lenient here and bring down the hammer over here. Just like the NCAA. That's kind of how they run things.
Same difference.
University of Miami just kind of got a slap on the wrist for a violation that most people thought was going to land them in the ranks of either USC, who lost a couple-year bowl ban.
Right.
So no postseason for them.
Thanks to Reggie Bush.
Yeah, and a bunch of scholarships.
Yeah.
Instead, they got not really much anything.
Yeah. Penn State, with their big coaching fiasco and all that kind of stuff, got a rather big punishment kind of along the same lines. Mm-hmm. It is very prevalent in NCAA.
Yeah. Biggest one of all time, obviously, being Southern Methodist back in the 80s, getting a death penalty, as they call it, where they had to cancel an entire year of football. They ended up canceling a second year just so they could find people to play.
Yeah. Clean house, get in some, proper people.
Yeah. Get rid of Craig James.
Yeah, so, it's rife in NCAA, and we see a lot of that. But the only other place that we've really seen, I racked my brain trying to think of professional leagues where we've seen stuff like this happen. The only one I can think of is the Black Sox in 1919.
Yeah.
Where they threw a World Series.
Threw a World Series to the Cincinnati Redlegs.
They did, and, were punished heavily for it. A lot of those players were given lifetime bans, were never allowed to play Major League Baseball game again.
Shoeless Joe.
Shoeless Joe, the most famous of them. And it was, outside of that, though, I can't really think of too many examples where we've seen anything like this happen.
In pro sports. And, I think it comes down to one thing here in America, which is the only governing body here are just the leagues themselves.
Right.
And the leagues themselves aren't going to do things that's going to hurt their product.
Right.
Because that would mean less money.
And that's all that really matters in pro sports.
FIFA, hey, the Scottish Premier League is in the crapper because the only other relevant team outside of Celtic is down in the friggin' pits.
Right.
Obviously, that's killing them as a product, but FIFA doesn't give a crap.
Not particularly. No, I mean, it's a really interesting point and something that maybe you would like to see more over here. But even when it is pulled off in places like the NCAA or over in Europe, there's always such a huge backlash against it. And it's always, a side of the crowd that thinks, that was the right punishment.
Yeah, they came down too hard. They didn't come down hard enough. Or wasn't
it too hard? I mean, a couple of years ago, the best example of this in Europe in recent times is the gigantic match-fixing scandal in Italy.
Yeah.
Where Milan and Juventus and another kind of mid-table team in Italy were all convicted of tremendous match-fixing.
Yeah.
Juventus, who had won the previous 2 titles, mind you, the most storied franchise in all of Italian football, and they were relegated down as a portion of that and also given a points penalty to start off the next season. Now, they handily won Serie B the next year, without issue. But they were still forced down an entire league level for fixing matches. And it's, something that's kind of unique to soccer where you see a major team forced through something like that. But even then, there were people, that don't feel like that was the appropriate punishment. Didn't think that they should mess with the teams like that and send them down a league because that
they did too much.
Yeah, that they did too much.
When you have other people that said they
should have gotten more.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those teams were originally relegated, and only one of them ended up going down, which was Juve. So the other teams did start the season with points deductions, and it took Milan up until pretty much last year to recover from that. But it is a really interesting point, and definitely something that we don't see over here in American sports very often at all.
No. I mean, it's because of the almighty dollar.
Yep.
And since there's no governing body that doesn't get hurt or helped by the financial windfalls of a league, there's nobody there to say, you're going down for this, you're losing this, even though it's going to cost the entire product as a whole.
Yeah.
Roger Goodell is not going to do anything like that.
No, he wouldn't.
He'll suspend a player, but he's not going to
suspend a franchise.
Yeah, he's not going to say, oh, sorry, Minnesota Vikings, you have to go ahead and
start this year with an automatic loss or something like that.
You start the season 0-2.
Yeah. You lose your bye weeks.
Yeah.
So now it's just something that corporatized sports over here in the States wouldn't really have in their best interests.
Nope. All right, Champions League starts. By the time you're hearing this, it's probably already started. The Tuesday matches are probably already in the books.
Yep.
Again, as we mentioned, it's the same matchups we just had. So, big ones for Tuesday, Juventus, Real Madrid.
Yep.
That's kind of the big one. Manchester City, CSKA Moscow. It's a little interesting now since
that Hart's not playing.
Yeah, Hart's going to be on the bench again. Outside of that, those are pretty much the only nice ones out of Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll see if Chelsea can rebound as they host Schalke, a team that they handled
pretty well.
Pretty easily. 3-0 in the first match. The big one, and this is the match that we've been enjoying, Dortmund and Arsenal. actually going to be on Fox Sports 2 this week.
Good luck finding that on your...
I have that. I don't have Fox Sports 1, but I have that.
I can get Fox Sports 2 on my tablet.
Okay.
So I'll be watching, in a confined space.
Yeah, but it was a tasty first matchup between the two. Dortmund, obviously, coming out on top on that one. Should be a nice one. I don't know. I outed myself last week as a Dortmund fan. So.
Yeah, a closet Dortmund fan we have here.
So, where my allegiances lie.
Well, I'll definitely be pulling for Dortmund because I need something to muck up this Arsenal run. It's really just eating away at me.
Chelsea tried to. They knocked them around in
the Capital One Cup. Yeah.
Knocked around that Bentner-led B side.
Yeah, arguably the more important cup.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Capital One Cup.
The Capital One Cup versus the Champions League. Take your pick.
Atletico Madrid is playing nobody. Austria.
Austria Vine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not good. There's nothing else. Oh, yeah. Barcelona and a tepid AC Milan.
Oh.
Yay.
Hooray.
So that's Champions League. We'll kind of delve more into that as we get closer to week of Thanksgiving, the next time they kind of get cracking. And by then we'll kind of know who's in trouble, who's pretty much got things wrapped up.
Who's going to be joining Spurs in the Europa League?
Yeah, how does Group F shake up? I mean, that was the group of death.
Yeah, it was.
How does that go as they hit the final two matches there?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Hey, you saw some live action this week.
I did see some live action. It was a little local football. With
local flavor.
Little local flavor, supporting the local football culture. No, I went down and watched our friends, the Cincinnati Saints, kick off their professional indoor season in the PASL against the Cleveland Freeze.
Cleveland Freeze.
A super.
Does it get that cold in Cleveland where you would name a team
the Freeze? I mean, it's definitely miserable up there. There's no doubt about that.
Portions or
sometimes
all of
it's
the lake
frozen.
Freezes?
Yeah. So it is a bit of a weird name. But it actually was a pretty entertaining match and ended up an 8-7 win for the Saints.
8-7. It's
15 goals in an hour of soccer, which wasn't too bad. They had a great turnout. Probably 300 to 400 fans turned up for it, which, not a sellout by any means at the Tri-County Sportsplex.
But that's good. It's one of the things we want to stress is if you want soccer to grow in this country, you got to support it on its most local levels.
Grassroots.
You gotta, you have to support whoever your local side is. Even if that means going and supporting the local, D3 college near you.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just
whatever you can
it.
do, get out and cheer on. And, the more people that see us out, for these meaningless games, they'll kind of get that there's more to this sport than necessarily, meets
than what's
the eye.
on TV.
Yeah, and it'll take, seeing someone out for something that seems rather insignificant to convince some people that it's worthwhile.
Hey, maybe this is a good time.
Yeah. So, and if you can get out and have a couple beers and watch the local side kick around.
That's always a plus.
Yeah. But I did get to talk to David Satterwhite, who we had
How's
on.
he doing?
He's doing good. We had him on the podcast a while back to talk to us about the Saints moving up a few levels. So he was very thankful for Wrong Side of the Pond and the exposure that we've given him on our lovely podcast. So definitely go back and check that out. I think that was our second or third episode.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. So give it a listen. And if you're in the Cincinnati area, go out and give the Saints a watch.
Yeah.
It's cheap, $10 a ticket. Easy way to spend a couple hours of your Saturday night. Go out and enjoy some local flavor.
I mean, to see a movie now is what, like $14?
Yeah. So it's cheaper than a movie to go watch some live soccer.
Yeah.
That sounds like a deal to me.
And you don't have to be all quiet.
Nah, you can yell all you want.
Yeah, yell.
They even
drink.
They had a supporters group with not flares but smoke bombs they were lighting off.
I saw an interesting move by high school kids. Friday Night Football in their student section had socks full of baby powder and then just started spinning them around, and it just created this giant cloud of baby powder.
That is pretty interesting.
Once it floated over to the sideline, it smelled quite nicely.
Yeah, I bet it did.
It smelled better than the stinky players that have been wearing the same pads from week 10, and and those things hadn't been washed yet.
That.
So it's better than what sidelines normally smell like.
Yes, absolutely. So maybe you'll get to bring that out to your next local football match. A sock full of baby powder.
Sock full of something.
PG podcast we got here.
All right, I think that wraps it up.
I think that's a good one.
We got, again, some decent matches next weekend. Big statement game, Arsenal, United at the Emirates.
We'll find out if our teams can actually, have some positive results.
Yeah, Chelsea at home with West Brom, so not worried there, but then again, wasn't worried going into this weekend either.
Right. So
maybe I should.
Maybe
I should be a little
worried.
tense.
Yeah. Get out your lucky rabbit's foot. And then Spurs have Newcastle at home on Sunday.
Watch out. They're white hot right now.
They are white hot. But as we've noticed with them, they tend to go white cold just as fast.
Yeah. A lot of peaks and valleys with that team.
So we may have positive things to talk about next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So
if we don't, if Chelsea craps the bed to West Brom, I don't know.
We'll have another fun podcast.
We might have to go on hiatus.
For you. Yeah. All right, kids. Well, it's been fun as always. Check us out on wrongsideofthepond.com. Shoot us an email at wrongsideofthepond@gmail.com if you have any questions you want us to cover.
Yeah. Let us know. We want to kind of get into this kind of every week, just having one topic that you supply to us, or just kind of a social media conversation leads to. Just kind of one thing of being a fan here in the States, that perspective. Obviously, we looked at FIFA sanctions, how they relate to us here in America. Talked last week about having
World Cup draw.
More than one love.
Yeah, absolutely. So send them in. We want to talk about your topics.
Yeah. All righty.
See you guys.
Bye.